Chapter 1. The Silence Between Us. Sophia looked at the clock again. It was almost 9. The food was cold. The living room was quiet. She touched her phone for the 5th time, hoping for a message. Nothing came. She whispered to herself that maybe the traffic was bad. But deep inside her heart said something else. The house felt empty, even when the lights were on. Henry came home late that night. He walked in looking tired and distant. He said only one word, a soft, "Hey," and went straight to the bedroom. Sophia stood still. There was a time when he would hug her the moment he came home. Now he didn't even look at her. She tried to smile and asked if he wanted to eat. He said, "No, I already had something outside." The words hit her quietly. She nodded and turned away so he would not see her eyes. They had been married for 15 years. Once their love was strong. Henry used to wait for her after work. He used to bring her small gifts even when they had little money. He made her laugh when she cried. He once said, "Sophia, you are the best part of my life." Those words had stayed in her heart, but now she could not remember when she last heard them. In the next few days, Henry became even more distant. He sat with his phone, scrolling for hours. He smiled at the screen but not at her. When she spoke, he often didn't answer. Sometimes he said, "I'm busy. We'll talk later." That later never came. Sophia tried to believe that it was work stress, but when she saw him typing at midnight with a small smile, her hands went cold. She looked at the man she loved and felt she was losing him. Slowly, day by day, without any fight or reason, Sophia thought of their early years. Henry would come home early just to take her out for ice cream. He would plan small weekend trips and tell her to pack light. Even when they had problems, he talked kindly. She had always believed they were unbreakable. But now there was silence between them that she could not cross. One evening she cooked his favorite dish. She waited all evening. When he came home, she said softly that dinner was ready. He just said, "I already ate at the office." He didn't notice that she had dressed nicely, hoping for a small compliment. After he went to bed, she sat alone at the table and whispered, "What happened to us, Henry?" The tears came quietly, like a habit she never wanted. Days turned into weeks. Sophia began to watch him carefully. He started keeping his phone face down. He had set a new password. When she asked why, he said it's just office data. Nothing personal. But his tone was hard, not kind. He had never spoken to her like that before. She wanted to ask more, but fear stopped her. The more she tried to save the bond, the faster it slipped away. One Sunday morning she asked, "Can we go on a small trip next weekend?" Henry didn't even look up. He said he had meetings. She reminded him softly that they hadn't gone anywhere for years. He sighed and said, "Sophia, not now, please." The way he said her name sounded like a stranger speaking. She turned away and smiled to hide her hurt. Later that night she sat in the dark, thinking of every small moment. She remembered the time when he had left work early to take her to the hills. The way he laughed when she spilled coffee. The way he promised her that love never fades. She now realized promises can fade quietly without any sound, just like love. Sophia started feeling invisible in her own home. When she spoke, Henry looked at his phone. When she smiled, he didn't notice. Once when she tried to hold his hand, he pulled it away gently and said he was tired. That small moment broke something inside her. She cried in silence. She didn't want him to see her weak. Her best friend Clara called one evening and asked, "You sound low. Is everything okay?" Sophia said, "Yes, I'm fine." Even when her voice trembled, she didn't want anyone to know the truth. She still hoped that one morning he would wake up and be the man he once was. She told herself Love can survive distance if hearts still care. But she was not sure if his heart cared anymore. The silence became louder each day. Even when they sat together, words didn't come. The laughter, the teasing, the soft jokes, everything was gone. One night when Henry fell asleep, Sophia looked at his face in the dim light. She whispered, "You used to be my peace. Henry, why do you now feel like pain?" She closed her eyes, holding back tears. That night she couldn't sleep. She turned and looked at the ceiling. Something inside her said that this was only the beginning. She didn't know what was coming, but she felt it. A storm, hiding behind calm. And for the first time, Sophia realized that love is not lost in one moment. It disappears slowly, through silence, distance, and small lies. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website, bookiesenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 2. The Unknown Perfume. Next morning, Sophia woke up early. Henry was already dressed. He looked in a hurry. He said he had a meeting and would eat outside. She noticed a soft smell in the air. Perfume she never knew. It was not his usual scent. It was new, warm, and strange. She asked quietly, "When did you start using perfume?" He smiled a little and said, "Someone at the office gifted it." Then he left quickly. His answer sounded simple, but her heart didn't believe it. The rest of the day, Sophia kept thinking about that smell. She remembered Henry once saying, "Perfumes give him headaches," but now he used it every day. She looked at the old bottle she had gifted him years ago. It was still half full. She whispered to herself, "Who is he trying to smell good for?" She didn't want to doubt, but the doubt was already growing inside. That evening, Henry came home late. Again, he was talking on his phone when he entered. He didn't see her waiting near the door. His tone was soft and happy. The moment he saw her, he said quickly, "I'll call you later," and put the phone away. Sophia smiled faintly and asked, "Everything okay?" He said, "Yes, just office work." She nodded, but her heart felt heavy. She could see that something was hidden behind his tired smile. For the next few days, Sophia began to notice small changes. Henry had started wearing new shirts. He looked at his reflection longer than before. He now used that same perfume daily. He also began locking his phone. One morning she heard his phone buzz. He quickly took it and went outside. She followed him quietly and heard him laugh. The same laugh that used to be only hers. Sophia didn't want to become suspicious, but she couldn't stop herself. She told her friend Clara, "I think Henry is hiding something." Clara asked, "Did you ask him?" Sophia replied, "No, I'm scared of the answer." Clara told her softly, "Then find out the truth. It's better than slowly dying inside." A few days later, while folding Henry's shirt, a small receipt fell out of the pocket. It was from a gift shop. The date was last week. The item was perfume, rosewood scent, the same smell she had noticed. Her hands shook. She remembered his words. "Someone gifted it to me, but the bill said he was the buyer." She sat down, quietly holding the paper. Her mind started to fill with questions she couldn't stop. That night she decided to ask. When Henry came home, she said softly, "You told me someone gave you that perfume, but I found the bill in your pocket." He looked surprised and said, "Oh yes, I forgot. I bought it later for myself." His voice was calm, but his eyes looked away. Sophia didn't speak further. She just said, "Okay," and turned to the kitchen. Her silence said what her words couldn't. Later that night, Henry was sitting on the bed typing something on his phone. Sophia sat beside him and tried to start a light talk. "Remember our old trip to the beach? We should go again someday," she said, with a small smile. Henry didn't look up. He said, "Not now, Sophia. I'm tired." She turned off the light slowly. In the dark, her eyes were open. She thought, he doesn't even remember what that place meant to us. In the following week, Henry became more protective of his phone. Once it rang when he was in the shower. The name on the screen flashed Am. She looked at it but didn't touch it. When he came out, he asked sharply, "Did you touch my phone?" She said, "No." He looked at her as if he didn't trust her. That one look hurt more than any argument. The next day, Henry told her he would be coming home late for an office dinner. She smiled and said, "All right." After he left, she sat quietly on the sofa. Hours passed. She couldn't stop thinking. Around 11, she heard a message beep on his tablet, which he rarely used. Now, she opened it without planning to. The screen showed a chat notification from AM saying, "Thank you for today. You still make me laugh." Sophia froze. She stared at the words until they blurred. Her heart started beating fast. She closed the tablet, placed it back, and went to her room. She sat on the floor and whispered, "Please God, tell me this is not what I think." She cried silently till her eyes burned. But when Henry came home, she wiped her face and smiled as if nothing had happened. Henry didn't notice her red eyes. He just said, "I'm tired," and went to bed. Sophia stood there for a long time. That night, she realized something painful. Love doesn't always die loudly. Sometimes it disappears quietly between two people who stop being honest. She promised herself that she would not jump to conclusions, but her mind kept repeating that name. Am. Who was it? A colleague, a friend, or someone else from his past? The smell of the perfume now felt like a message. Every time she smelled it, her chest hurt. She decided she would find out the truth no matter how much it hurt. But she wanted to do it her way, calm, silent, and careful. She told herself, "I will not cry again. I just need to know." She wiped her tears and looked at the mirror. The woman staring back at her didn't look weak anymore. She looked determined. Chapter 3. Shadows of the Past. Sophia could not forget those 3 words on the screen. "You still make me laugh." They kept echoing in her head. The next morning, Henry acted normal, drinking coffee, checking his phone, and leaving for work. But for Sophia, nothing was normal anymore. She had crossed the line between trust and doubt. She now needed answers. She tried to stay calm. She didn't want to shout or cry. She wanted to understand what was really happening. That day, she decided to go to Henry's office without telling him. She thought maybe she could meet him for lunch and see the truth in his eyes. But when she called his office, the receptionist said he left early for a client meeting. Her heart sank. He had told her the same thing before. Meetings that never ended. Sophia sat in her car for a while and whispered, "If he's not at work, where is he?" Her hands shook as she drove toward the side of the city where his company often held events. She didn't plan anything. Her heart just guided her. At a small cafe near the main street, she saw him. Henry was sitting with a woman. The woman's back faced her, but Sophia could see Henry's smile, a smile she hadn't seen in months. The woman touched his hand while talking. Sophia froze. She didn't go inside. She couldn't. She just sat in the car and watched from a distance. After a few minutes, Henry stood up and helped the woman with her coat. When she turned, Sophia's world stopped. She recognized her. It was Emily, Henry's college friend from old photos. The same woman who used to call sometimes before their marriage but had disappeared years ago. Sophia drove away quickly, her eyes full of tears. At home, she sat on the floor, hugging her knees. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Why, Henry?" After all these years, her mind began connecting everything. The new perfume, the locked phone, the name AM. It all made sense. Now, M was Emily. Emily. The next few days felt like a blur. She watched him closely without showing it. Every night, he said he was busy. Every morning he smiled at his phone before leaving. She checked his tablet again when he was asleep. There were deleted messages, but one was left. You looked perfect today. Same smile I fell for in college. Sophia covered her mouth as tears fell. The pain was not just betrayal. It was the feeling of becoming invisible to someone she had given everything to. She remembered their college stories. Henry had once told her that Emily was his first crush, but he said it was over long before he met Sophia. She had believed him. She never asked again because she trusted him completely. Now that same woman was back in his life, stealing the same love Sophia had built for years. One night Henry came home late again. Sophia sat quietly pretending to read a book. He said, I had to help a colleague with her car. She replied softly, Oh, that's kind of you. Her tone was calm, but her heart was breaking inside. When he went to shower, she looked at his shirt. The same perfume smell. The same rosewood scent. She pressed the shirt to her face and whispered, This is how betrayal smells. Days passed and Sophia decided she could no longer live in half-truths. She wanted to be sure. One Friday evening, Henry said he would be working late again. After he left, she followed him. Her heart beat fast as she drove behind his car. He stopped near the same cafe. Emily was already there. They sat close, talking like lovers. He gave her a small box. Emily opened it and smiled brightly. It looked like a gift. Sophia felt her throat tighten. She wanted to scream but couldn't. She just sat silently in her car and cried until her hands stopped trembling. When she returned home, she looked at their wedding photo on the wall. She whispered, I gave you my best years, and this is what I got back. That night she couldn't close her eyes. The next morning she decided to confirm everything once and for all. She called one of Henry's old college friends, Daniel, pretending to ask about a reunion. During the talk, Daniel mentioned something that froze her blood. He said, Oh, Henry and Emily met again at the reunion a few months ago. Everyone joked they still looked like the perfect pair. Sophia hung up the call quietly. She now knew where it had all started. Reunion had reopened a chapter that should have stayed closed. She sat by the window holding her heart like it was breaking into pieces. Her mind whispered, He met her again. And he forgot me. When Henry came home that night, she smiled as if nothing was wrong. He said, You look tired. She replied softly, Yes, just didn't sleep well. He walked away without noticing the pain behind her eyes. She thought, He can't see my pain anymore because he doesn't look at me the way he once did. Sophia had found the truth, but she said nothing. She didn't want to lose her dignity by begging for honesty. She decided to watch how far he would go, how long he would lie. She wanted him to realize on his own what he was destroying. Her silence became her shield. That night she sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, I know everything, Henry, but I'll wait until you confess. The words stayed in her heart, unspoken, but strong. She turned off the light and lay beside him, pretending to sleep. Her tears were quiet, but her heart screamed. Chapter 4. The Hidden Lies. Sophia lived each day pretending that everything was fine, but inside her the pain kept growing. She smiled when Henry was home, but her eyes no longer shined. She had already seen enough to know the truth, yet she acted like she didn't. Sometimes silence gives you more power than words. Henry had no idea that Sophia already knew about Emily. He kept lying, thinking he was hiding it. Well, he said he had office meetings, client dinners, or late work calls. Every lie felt sharper than a knife, but Sophia didn't react. She listened quietly and said, Only, okay. That word became her mask. One afternoon she found another small Proof. Henry's wallet had a photo not of them but of Emily. It was a recent one from a reunion photo she had seen online. Sophia's hands shook, but she didn't cry. This time, she had no tears left. She whispered to herself, "You carry her picture but forget the woman who stood by you all these years." The distance between them kept growing. At night, Henry turned his back when he slept. In the morning he left without saying goodbye. Sophia started keeping track of his lies. She wrote dates and reasons he gave in a small notebook, not to punish him but to face the truth clearly. She needed to see it with her own eyes, written in her own hand. One day Clara came to visit. She looked at Sophia's pale face and asked, "Are you still pretending?" Sophia smiled weakly and said, "Yes, because I want him to realize what he's losing. I won't scream. I'll let the silence do the work." Clara hugged her tightly and said, "You deserve better." Sophia whispered, "I know, but I still love him. That's what hurts the most." A week later, Henry forgot to delete a message. It said, "Next Friday, same cafe. Can't wait to see you again." Sophia looked at it without shaking this time. She took a deep breath and saved the number. Then she looked at their wedding photo again and said softly, "You promised forever. I guess forever ended for you too. Soon." That Friday she followed him again, quietly like a ghost. He met Emily at the same cafe. This time Sophia recorded everything. His smile, his words, the way he held her hand. When she came home she didn't watch the video. She didn't need to. It was already burned into her memory. That night when Henry came home she served him dinner as usual. He said, "You're quiet these days." She smiled gently and said, "Some things are easier in silence." He didn't understand. He just nodded and ate. Later, while he was asleep, Sophia sat beside him and looked at his face. It was hard to believe that this man, the one she had loved for 15 years, could break her heart so easily. She whispered, "I wish you had just told me the truth. I could forgive mistakes but not lies." Her voice was calm but full of pain. The next morning Henry left early. Again, Sophia opened his drawer and found an envelope. Inside it was a small chain with a heart pendant. It had the initials Emily and Henry. Sophia closed her eyes tightly. Her heart felt heavy but she didn't scream. She placed the pendant back carefully and closed the drawer. She wanted him to see that nothing could break her dignity. That night she cooked his favorite meal. One last time. When he came home he said, "You didn't have to do all this." She smiled faintly and said, "I wanted to remember how it used to feel when you were still mine." Henry looked at her confused but said nothing. Sophia slept peacefully that night for the first time in months. Not because she was happy but because she had accepted the truth. She was no longer afraid of losing him because he was already gone. Chapter 5. The Woman Who Waited. Sophia's heart had already broken, but she learned to walk with that pain. She didn't ask questions anymore. She didn't wait for Henry's calls. She smiled when he was home, but her silence had become her shield. Deep down she still loved him, but she loved herself a little more. Now, she decided not to waste her life crying. One morning she looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "You will not break again." She joined an art class nearby. She started painting small things, faces, emotions, memories. She even posted her art online. People appreciated her. For the first time in a long while she felt alive. Henry didn't notice the change in her at first. He was too busy in his own lies. But slowly he began to sense something. She no longer asked where he went. She no longer texted him when he was late. She looked peaceful, and that peace started to bother him. He asked one night, "Why are you so quiet these days?" She replied softly, Because peace is better than begging for love. Henry didn't know what to say. He just looked away. Every evening Sophia spent time painting or talking to her friend Clara. Clara told her, "You're glowing again, Sophia. This is the woman you used to be." Sophia smiled faintly and said, "Maybe. Pain can't destroy love, but it can teach strength." She still wore her wedding ring, but now it felt like a memory, not a promise. Henry started feeling uncomfortable. He expected her to cry, to fight, to demand answers. But she didn't. Her silence was powerful. It made him restless. One night when he came home late, she was asleep already. Dinner was on the table, covered neatly. For the first time, Henry felt something strange. He missed her voice. Days passed. Sophia's art started selling. A local gallery displayed her paintings. People loved her work. She didn't tell Henry. When he found out from Clara, he was surprised. He said, "You never told me." She looked at him calmly and said, "You never asked." Her voice was soft but strong. It made him think for a long time after she left the room. At work, Henry was no longer happy. Emily had started demanding more time, more attention, and more promises. She argued when he couldn't meet her. Once she told him, "You care more about your wife's feelings than mine." That day, Henry went silent. For the first time, he saw the difference. Emily brought excitement, but Sophia had always brought peace. Sophia, on the other hand, began to heal. She spent weekends volunteering at an art center for children. The kids loved her gentle smile. She laughed. Again, something she hadn't done in months. Her heart was still scarred, but she was becoming whole again. One night, Henry watched her from the doorway while she painted. She looked calm and focused. He wanted to say something but couldn't. He remembered the old days, the sound of her laughter, her care, her warmth. He realized that he had slowly destroyed the one person who truly loved him. He turned away quietly, feeling guilt rise in his chest. Sophia noticed his eyes more often now. They looked tired, lost, almost guilty. She didn't ask why. She had learned that some questions don't need answers. One evening she told him gently, "You look unhappy, Henry." He replied, "Maybe I'm realizing things too late." She said softly, "Realization without change means nothing." Her words hit him deep. From that day, Henry's behavior began to shift. He stopped lying easily. He came home earlier some nights. He tried to talk, but she only listened without emotion. Her heart was calm now. She had already faced the worst. He couldn't hurt her anymore. Sophia had become the woman who waited for truth, waited for respect, waited for her own peace. And now, even if love never came back the same way, she had found herself again. She no longer needed his approval to feel alive. Chapter 6. The mirror breaks. Henry's life started to fall apart. Quietly, the things that once gave him excitement now felt empty. Emily, who once smiled sweetly, had changed. She called him many times a day. She complained about small things. She said, "You don't care anymore." Henry sighed and said, "I have a family, too." But she didn't care. She wanted more attention, more money, more time. Sophia, on the other hand, had become calm. She didn't wait for Henry's love anymore. Her heart had grown stronger. She was polite, kind, and peaceful. And that peace confused him. He often found her reading, painting, or helping others. She no longer asked where he went or when he would come home. Her silence spoke more than words ever could. One evening, Henry came home early. He saw her laughing on a video call with Clara. She looked happy. For a moment, he just stood there watching her smile. Something broke inside him. That laughter had once been his. He walked away quietly and sat on the sofa, staring at his phone. Emily had sent another message. "You didn't call me today. Are you with your Wife again. He closed his eyes. He suddenly hated reading her name. Later that night, Henry tried to start a conversation. He said, "You've changed, Sophia." She replied softly, "People change when they stop being seen." He lowered his eyes. He wanted to say, "Sorry," but guilt made him silent. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept remembering her old laughter, her care, her touch, everything he had ignored. The next day, Emily called him at work and said she wanted to meet. He went, but the meeting turned into a fight. She told him, "I can't keep hiding like this. You promised me a future," Henry said tiredly. "You knew what this was." "I never promised anything," Emily shouted. "Then what am I to you?" He didn't answer. He just walked away. For the first time he saw her not as love but as a mistake. That night, he came home late and Saturday beside Sophia. He wanted to talk but couldn't find the right words. She asked gently, "Are you okay?" He nodded slowly and said, "Just a long day." She didn't ask more. Her quiet understanding made him feel smaller. He whispered under his breath, "You still care after all I've done?" She didn't hear him. Days passed and guilt started eating Henry from the inside. He avoided Emily's calls. He deleted her messages. He began spending more time at home, trying to find comfort again. One night, he opened an old box filled with memories, photos, letters, and cards. He found a small note Sophia had written years ago that said, "Even when you fail, I'll believe in you." His hands trembled as he read it. He realized he had failed her completely. Sophia noticed his behavior but stayed silent. She didn't want to ask or forgive too soon. She had built her peace carefully, and she wasn't ready to lose it again. But somewhere inside she still wished he would truly change. One morning Henry stood in front of the mirror staring at his own face. He didn't see the confident man he once was. He saw a stranger, a man who had destroyed his own happiness. His eyes filled with tears. He whispered, "What have I done?" That evening Emily called one last time. Henry answered and said firmly, "This has to end." She laughed coldly and said, "You'll come back." "You always do," he replied. "Not this time." Then he hung up. His hand shook, but he felt lighter. Later he went to Sophia and said quietly, "Can we talk?" She looked at him calmly and said, "You can always talk." He took a deep breath and said, "I've made mistakes. I forgot what mattered. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to be better." She didn't answer immediately. After a pause she said softly, "People change only when they want to, not when they fear losing something." Her words stayed in his mind all night. He realized she was right. He had lived in lies for too long, and now the mirror finally showed him who he really was. A man broken by his own choices. Like, subscribe and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookiesenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 7. When Truth Walked In. Henry thought that by ending things with Emily the worst was over. But truth has a strange way of finding its way home. A week later, his phone buzzed with a message that made his heart stop. It was from an unknown number. The message said, "Your wife deserves to know the truth. Check your email." He opened the email and froze. It was from Emily's husband. There were screenshots. Every message, every picture, every meeting time. All his secrets were there. His body went cold. He knew this time he couldn't hide anymore. That evening when Henry reached home, Sophia was sitting on the couch. On the table were the printed emails. She had already seen everything. She looked calm, too calm. Henry's throat went dry. He whispered, "Sophia, I can explain." She looked at him with steady eyes and said, "I already know. There's nothing left to explain." Her voice was not angry. It was empty. That emptiness hurt more than any shout. Henry dropped to his knees and said, "Please, I made a terrible mistake. I don't know why I did it. You didn't deserve this." Tears filled his eyes. He tried to touch her hand, but she moved away slowly. Sophia said quietly, "You didn't just lie to me, Henry. You killed everything we built. I kept waiting for you to tell me the truth. You had your chance." Her words cut deep. He covered his face and cried, saying, "I lost myself. I forgot what real love was. I forgot you." For a long time there was silence. Only their breathing filled the room. Then Sophia said softly, "I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired." She stood up and walked to her room. Henry followed her with his eyes, feeling smaller than ever. That night he sat alone on the floor, holding his head in his hands. The next few days were quiet. They lived under the same roof but spoke very little. Henry tried to help her with small things. He brought her coffee, cleaned the dishes, and stayed home more often. But Sophia didn't trust his sudden kindness. She told him, "You can't fix this with gestures. You broke something that doesn't heal so easily." He nodded silently. One night, he found her sitting alone, looking at their old photo album. She didn't cry this time. She just said, softly, "I miss who we were," Henry said in a low voice. "So do I." Then he whispered, "Can we ever be those people again?" She looked at him and said, "Maybe, but not with lies between us." Henry began to realize that forgiveness is not something you can ask for. It's something you have to earn. He decided not to push. He would wait, no matter how long it took. He had hurt her deeply, but now he wanted to heal her slowly, even if it took the rest of his life. That night before sleeping, Sophia said to herself, "He destroyed me, but maybe he can rebuild what's left." For the first time in months she felt a small spark of hope. It was not love again, but it was the beginning of understanding. Chapter 8. The second beginning. Months passed after the truth came out. The pain didn't fade easily, but time began to soften it. Henry stopped making excuses. He spent every day trying to prove that he had truly changed. He no longer went out late. He deleted old contacts. He spent quiet evenings beside Sophia, waiting for her to speak first. Sophia watched him carefully. At first, she didn't trust his silence. She thought it was another act. But slowly, she began to notice small things. He woke up early to make her coffee. He remembered her medicine. He didn't touch his phone at dinner. He even started helping her with her art, framing her paintings and praising her work. One day, he said softly, "Your art has more life than I do." His voice trembled as he said it. Sophia didn't respond right away. Later that night she said quietly, "You can't erase the past, Henry, but maybe you can write a better ending." He nodded, his eyes wet. From that day, he didn't talk about forgiveness again. He simply lived like a man who wanted to be better, not to be loved, but to make peace with himself. A few weeks later, he surprised her with something unexpected. He said, "Pack a small bag. We're going somewhere." Sophia looked at him confused and said, "Where?" He smiled nervously and said, "To the same place we went after our wedding. I want to see if you can still smile there." During the trip they talked more than they had in years. The words were simple, the pauses gentle. Henry told her how lost he had been, how guilt had changed him. He said, "I kept searching for something new, but everything I ever needed was already home." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Sometimes people realize love only after they destroy it." He looked down and said, "That's my story." That night they sat quietly side by side. No promises, no big speeches, just peace. Henry held her hand after many months. She didn't pull away. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. A soft new chapter in their long story. When they returned home, Sophia hung one of her new paintings on the wall. It was a picture of two broken hearts stitched together with golden thread. Henry looked at it and asked, "What does it mean?" She said, "It means broken. Things can still be beautiful if people care enough to fix them." He stood behind her and said, "Then let me be that thread." From that day on, their life moved slowly but honestly. They talked more. They laughed sometimes. Henry never tried to be perfect again. He tried to be real. And Sophia learned that forgiveness was not about forgetting. It was about choosing peace over pain. Their love was not the same as before. It was quieter, humbler, and deeper. They had seen the worst of each other and still stayed. That itself became their new kind of love. Imperfect but true. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. The end.